nonprofit. First, let me just share a little bit about myself, and then I'd also like to share a little bit about Little Green Light, and then we'll dive in really into the meat and potatoes of today's presentation, which is really seeing what Little Green Light is all about and what it can do. First, like many of you, I have been engaged in the nonprofit space for the majority of my career. Up until the time that I started working for Little Green Light, every position I held was in some nonprofit capacity. And of course, like probably many of us, I didn't start off in development, but I did find my way there by the end of my nonprofit career time. But I was really doing direct service, and that direct service work kind of evolved into more administrative level work, and then finally into advancement and development work. So I have a real passion for nonprofits and for what nonprofits accomplish in our communities and how important they are. And I have always been engaged in really kind of the small to mid-sized nonprofits. And so when I discovered Little Green Light as a customer more than 10 years ago, maybe even more now, 11, I realized that I was really needing a tool that was geared to me as a user and not geared to someone who was a database expert or techie guru. And I had been struggling very much with a database that was that, and found that even though I was intelligent enough to ultimately figure it out, it was taking way more time and energy away from the things that I really wanted and needed to do and focus on. And that was the stewarding and cultivating of my organization's donors and prospects. So I was really excited to learn about Little Green Light when I did, and had some very hands-on experience with how using the right system really transformed my fundraising efforts and my organization's capabilities to really understand what motivated our donors and keep track of really important conversations and interactions so that we could be really smarter about how it is that we were interacting with them going forward. And we saw the results in terms of increased donations and increased cultivation to the point where we've never been able to have a successful capital campaign before we did. We grew our annual fund pretty substantially in the 2 years that I was there using Little Green Light. And I really credit a lot of that to a really good system like Little Green Light and the ease of use and the ability to kind of step back from having to spend so much time and energy wrangling with a difficult system and putting all of that time and energy really into to the work with my donors, which is where I needed to be as an advancement or development professional. So that is a little bit about me, and also really a little bit about Little Green Light. We have been around Little Green Light for, we're in our 11th year. Last year, we actually celebrated our 10-year anniversary. So I was, as you probably kind of got a sense, one of Little Green Light's first customers. As a matter of fact, I think the school I was with that was using Little Green Light at the time was one of their first 50 customers. So really early on. And Nick, one of our company's founders, he and I often chuckle because much of how Little Green Light evolved in those early days was really because I was asking for some functionality that I needed to be able to do my job more effectively. And we still kind of take that same approach today. We get a lot of feedback from our nonprofit customers, and that really helps guide us to really build out and develop our software. So it's always growing and changing to the point where it's really helping to meet our needs of our customers that much better. So we operate really differently than a lot of other donor management systems in that, one, who we are thinking about as our user is not that database professional or that technical expert. It's that hardworking development or nonprofit person who is at their organization who really wants to make sure that they are really advancing their organization's mission and needs some tool sets and some functionality that makes that easier for them to do. So as I said, to really be able to focus on the things that matter most, and that is cultivating and sorting those relationships, not wrangling with a really difficult database program. So when Little Green Light got started 10 years ago, we really saw that there was a kind of a gap in what was available out there for donor management software. There are some great systems out there, and times definitely have changed. There's a lot more options available that are cloud-based, like Little Green Light is. But at the time when we started, that wasn't the case. And cloud-based software was relatively new, but open source platforms became really easy for us to be able to capitalize on and create a really robust and strong platform that was easy to use for our customers, but also really affordable for them as well. Many times people look at our software and they think, oh, it sounds really too good to be true. It does all of that, but it is way less expensive than most of our competitors. And so sometimes that is scary for people. They see that and they think, well, if it doesn't cost enough, then maybe it's not good enough. But I share that because it's really kind of based in our philosophy about who Little Green Light, who is behind Little Green Light, who Little Green Light is, who our customers are, and what our belief system is. And that is that we really believe that small and mid-sized nonprofits deserve a robust solution like the bigger nonprofits have available to them, but without breaking their bank. Because we know that small and mid-sized nonprofit budgets are really restrictive sometimes. And we, as I said, really just find it super important to get a tool set in your hands that's going to really make it easier for you to be able to do your job more effectively. So we have worked really hard to make our software be pretty user-friendly and intuitive, meaning that we don't have to invest tons and tons of time in big support offices where we're working with customers one-on-one to help them figure out how to use Little Green Light. It's almost easy enough to do that without ever having to feel like you need to contact us. And as a matter of fact, we find that very few of our customers reach out to us and take advantage of the support we do offer, because they do find Little Green Light to be pretty intuitive right out of the box. And that's probably one of the best compliments that we can receive. But I also do have to say that we really do pride ourselves in making our support and our training resources available to our customers, because we want you to get the most out of this platform as you can. So we definitely take the supporting of our customers super seriously. That's something that we never really want to let go of. So that is a little bit about kind of us and our background, a little bit of our philosophy, who we are that is behind Little Green Light. I am really not an exception in Little Green Light in terms of having a nonprofit background. As a matter of fact, almost all of the staff that we have hired have had some, if not extensive, nonprofit background and experience themselves. We have literally kept our team small, specifically so that we could really hire the best and focus on really making our platform the best it can be. And that's really what's enabled us to keep our prices down, and where we hope that we'll continue to be able to keep going well into the future. So just because our prices are low doesn't mean we don't have a good system. I guess I just want to make that point pretty clear. So, okay, so let's talk about the nuts and bolts here about Little Green Light and exactly what it is. So, of course, you're all here to learn a little bit about donor management software, and specifically Little Green Light, and how it can hopefully help your organization maybe get a little better handle on the data that you need to maintain as it pertains to your fundraising efforts and your cultivation efforts of your donors and your prospects. And that's exactly what Little Green Light was created to do. First and foremost, we have a cloud-based platform, as I've mentioned, where when you create an account with Little Green Light, You do that directly from our website, which I was just on here a few minutes ago. Really easy to set up your account. We give you the first 30 days for free because we really want you to test it out and see if it's a good fit for you before you actually commit to paying. Every one of our accounts start that way, and it's a fully functioning account. It has all of the capabilities and functionality that our subscribing account does. And you also have access to all of our support and training resources during that free period as well. And again, it's because we really want to make sure that you have what you need to make a really good and informed decision about whether or not this system is going to be right for you. The other thing that makes us a little bit different is that we don't require our customers to sign any contracts with us. There's no setup fees. When you set up their account, there is no requirement that you provide us with any payment information at that time. It's only if you decide that you think that LGL is going to be the right fit for you, when you actually will provide us with payment information when you set up your actual subscription. So we want you to, like I said, really test this out and make sure it's a good tool for you. Once you have an account, you can either go directly to the unique URL that we have provided for you that you set up when you actually create your account. Or you can simply just come into the sign in button from our homepage on our website, and that will ask you for your login credentials so that you can get into your own site. Security is really important to us, as we know it is for you. And we want to make sure that you are comfortable knowing that we have taken really some great measures to make sure that your information does stay secure and safe, and that is accessible to you at all times. Now, just because your data is hosted in the cloud through the use of our platform doesn't mean that you don't own your data. You absolutely do. Every step of the way, it's always your data. All we do is actually safely and securely store it for you in the cloud. And that means that we give you some opportunities to be able to restore data to the way it was previously if for some reason you've made some global change that you mistakenly didn't want to. We can actually go back up to 90 days and restore data to the way it was. We've had many stories of customers who have shared with us lost laptops or crashed Google Docs, or someone who's gotten into an Excel sheet and totally reorganized all of the data and they've lost some of their information. So we absolutely know how important it is to feel confident and secure with the data that you're maintaining. And a cloud-based solution really gives you a lot of security in the ways in which a standard or installed type of software doesn't. So those are all good things to be thinking about. But let's talk a little bit about Little Green Light here too, and specifically kind of what kinds of things that you can expect to do in Little Green Light and what kinds of information you can store in Little Green Light. One of the things that I think is sometimes a little bit eye-opening for folks that are looking at our donor management system for the first time, and partly because maybe we call it a donor management system. So the thought is that this is a system solely to keep track of the people who have given gifts to your nonprofit. Where Little Green Light differs in that is that we actually wanted to build a platform that made it possible for you to be able to track all of the people at your organization that are important to you. So those people might not have given financially yet to your nonprofit, but they may be really people that are important for you to be able to maintain communications with, interact with, invite to your events, etc. So they may be volunteers. If you're a pet organization, maybe it's your adopters or your fosters. If you're a school, maybe it's your parents or your board members or even your alumni. So Little Green Light makes it possible for you to be able to simply add constituent records to your database and then add tags or attributes to them so that you can understand how it is that they are connected to you. And it also allows you to be able to see multiple ways in which people are connected to your organization. So oftentimes, and I know in my world and working in nonprofits, it was not unusual for me to have separate files for different groups of people. So I might have a spreadsheet that's got information about who my volunteers are and what their interests are, maybe even what hours they have contributed to my nonprofit. And then I've got my alumni list in a different area, and I've got a whole nother list that people who attended my last event or contributed to my last annual solicitation. And what's difficult about that is that it's very hard to see connectivity among the same people that are doing those different activities. And that's one of the things that I think really sets Little Green Light apart. When you have a constituent record in Little Green Light, you're able to see the full picture of that constituent and how they've been engaged with you over time. And it starts to really give you a much clearer picture about who they are, what their interests are, and really what might be the most appropriate next step in terms of cultivating that relationship with them. So this is one of the records that we have here in this demonstration account that we use when we do these demos, and they're all made up of TV and movie actors and their TV and movie addresses. So you'll see some obviously familiar faces, but made up info. It's a good way to illustrate sometimes how people are connected, because you might kind of understand or know how people are related from those common scenarios, and it gives you kind of a sense about how LGL allows you to be able to see that. But this is one of my favorite constituent records that I often talk about when we're doing these kinds of reviews on Little Green Light is Mr. Ferris Bueller. I'm probably dating myself to let you know that he's definitely one of my favorite movie actors of all time. And this movie, of course, was one of my favorites. But this record is going to give me a good overview of exactly all the information that I have in my database that pertains to Ferris. So I can see some, obviously some naming information, everything from his first and last name, his middle name, even his employer and job title, if I have it, nicknames, birth dates, all of that can be captured really easily in his record and see that pretty easily. You can also see information about a spouse or partner that this constituent might have. One of the features that I found to be really beneficial was this ability to be able to connect other records in my database to Ferris's record with the use of relationships. So if I wanted to be able to see who else Ferris was connected to, and having worked in a school, this was really important. It was really great to be able to see multi-generations and how people were connected. Sometimes in those private school environments, you're getting year over year information about families and them coming in, and you want to make sure that you know how they're connected to each other. So LGL has that capability. This is where in a record you can see the various ways in which a particular constituent is associated with your organization. And specifically, it's this category here called groups that is often the way in which our organizations that use Little Green Light kind of add those tags to the constituent record to see the multiple ways in which someone is connected. Not only are these just lists of ways in which they're connected, but when you click on that link in their record, it's actually going to bring you back to the page to show you all of the people in your database who share that same group value. So it's really easy to generate a list. If I want to know who all my volunteers are, I simply can just click on that link within the record or use these filters that are available in this search results pane that will give me that info. So it's really easy to kind of narrow your search results down to get the information that you want at your fingertips. What also is really cool about these categories in Little Green Light is not only do Little Green Light kind of come pretty loaded with fields that you can populate. There isn't too much that we haven't thought of that we think that is most needed in the majority of nonprofits. But these categories can also be customized, meaning if there is a field of information that you want to be able to capture about a constituent and LGL doesn't have a field for it yet, you have the ability to create that field. And then that field, like all the other ones in Little Green Light, become then searchable and reportable through Little Green Light's mechanisms. So it's a really powerful way to make sure that every piece of data you need to capture can be in Little Green Light. Now, one of the things I didn't enable here in this account, and I believe we have a school on with us, so I'm going to take a minute and actually enable a setting for schools specifically. It's called school settings, and I'm just going to check the box, and that will actually add it into my database that we'll be able to see this in Ferris's record. LGL has a couple of special fields that you can choose to enable or not, depending on your organization's needs. One of them is around membership information. So if you are a membership organization and you need to be able to keep track of membership levels and the start and end dates, LGL has some fields to help you with that. Same is true with capturing class year affiliations. So remember how I was saying before, we had to capture alumni information and what class year they graduated in a separate place. Well, with Little Green Light, I didn't need to do that. I can do it right inside their record. And then I could easily generate class lists if I wanted to. So a couple other things that you'll see here in Ferris's record. This, I think, is really awesome. This actually gives you some information at your fingertips really quickly in terms of someone's giving history with you. So in particular, we're showing you at a glance Ferris's first, latest, and largest gifts, as well as how many consecutive years he's given to our organization. Really helpful information to know right off the bat. So if you're trying to figure out who it is that maybe has given a large gift but hasn't done so recently, you can easily search for that based on these fields that we've provided for you. What's also really awesome about this is that you do not need to ever update this information. We do that for you automatically. So of course, the first gift date will never change, nor the first gift amount, because when the first was the first is always the first, right? But you can definitely see the latest and largest gifts updating as he has given more recent gift or a larger gift than what was last noted in his record. And that happens immediately. So it's not even something that you have to wait for to have happen. The other thing that we do is we automatically assign a giving status to every one of your constituent records. So that really makes it super easy for you to be able to differentiate your active donors from your lapsed donors and even from those who have never given, your non-donors. Little Green Light also has a lot of functionality around tracking different kinds of gifts. And in Ferris's record here, we can see a summary of his gifts, how many he's given over all time and totaling how much money. So, you know, he's pretty engaged with us. He's given 35 gifts in his lifetime, totaling over $72,000, almost $73,000. We can even break out the kinds of gifts that he has provided to us. I talked a little bit about volunteering before, but I know that certainly many organizations, especially if they're doing grants or searching for help outside of their direct fundraising, that they sometimes need to provide data around how many volunteers they have and how many hours those volunteers are contributing to their organization. So we have a widget for that. Of course, there is the opportunity for you also to collect as much contact information as you have for that particular constituent. It's important to note in Little Green Light, you can store multiple phone numbers, emails, and mailing addresses in the constituent record. So you're not creating a record for someone and putting in their home info and then creating a second record for them so that you can capture their work info. It's all happening in this single record. So you're seeing all of that data in one place. You can prioritize which one is the preferred. You can even mark a particular piece of contact information as inactive, or you could simply remove it and delete it from the record and altogether. Um, LGL does have some cool features around mailing address information. Specifically, we do support seasonal date ranges of addresses. So if you have constituents who live um, in maybe Florida during the winter months, I think you guys are all in Florida, but maybe they go up north for the summer, and you want to document when they're in residence at that home, you could do that. And then when you use Little Green Light's built-in mailings functionality, LGL will be smart enough to take the appropriate address from the record based on the date of the mailing. The other thing that you'll see in here is there's some information that says verify or re-verify. This is an address verification tool that's included with your Little Green Light software. There's no extra charge for this functionality. And what it does is it automatically normalizes and verifies all of the US address information in your database and formats it according to US postal standards. So it keeps everything nice and neat and tidy, but it also helps to decrease the amount of no such address returned mail that you might get when you're sending it out. It also does power what we call our radius searching functionality. And that can come in really handy when maybe you're looking for a group of donors who reside in a certain city, state, or zip. Maybe you're planning to do a donor cultivation trip and you want to meet with constituents when you're at a conference in Boston and you want to find out how many donors you have that are in the Boston area that maybe you can meet with while you're there. So that is a little bit about the contact information piece. The last piece that I just want to spend a little bit of time on in the constituent record is this section at the bottom that we call related activity. And this is where kind of LGL shines in terms of it being more than a donor management system and really being a CRM. That is a constituent relationship management tool that's going to make it easy for you to be able to keep track of important contacts, interactions, etc., that you've had with this constituent over time. So you can really easily use our contact report form to document an important phone call or meeting. You could also set up a task in this record to remind you to do some follow-up with Ferris at some future time. So we know he's a pretty important donor. Maybe we want to set up a recurring task to just check in with him by phone on a quarterly basis. You don't have to remember that. You don't have to pencil it in on your calendar. You can actually put in a task, make it a recurring task to happen quarterly, assign it to you or even another member of your team who has access to your Little Green Light account. And then you will get notifications when that task is coming due. You can also go right to your dashboard and have the ability to see any upcoming tasks that you have. And you can even set up those to be emailed to you and via notifications if you want. This dashboard is also really handy because this kind of gives you a window into some important activity that's gone on in your account since you last logged in. You can quickly see your fundraising totals for the current year. If you want to be able to compare your most active solicitations or your events, you can set up the widgets on this dashboard to show you that. We also created some fun widgets. I think they're kind of fun anyway. Things like stewardship opportunities where we're going to automatically say, hey, you've got these people that are flagged as your top 100 donors, but they don't have any gifts yet this year. Do you want to know who they are? Do you want to work with them? So you can actually click through with a single click, find out who they are, and decide to have some interaction with them, maybe send them out a mailing or set up a plan to determine who is the one that maybe most needs your attention. Who was the last person who talked to them, and maybe what's the next step in terms of cultivating that relationship. So lots of great functionality as it relates to just really building up that relationship piece. Now, of course, even though constituents are really at the heart of Little Green Light, we are, of course, also a donor management system. So having the capability to be able to store this much information about constituents is useful, but you need also to have that kind of robust capability in terms of keeping track of all of your fundraising activity. And LGL does have that covered as well. In the fundraising area, we have a kind of similar view that we did when we were in the constituents area, except that this view is focused on the gifts rather than the person. So you can quickly see at a glance how well your organization is performing for the current fiscal year, how much money has come in total. You could even change this view and make it all dates or for last year and compare it that way. So you have the ability really to see some really important information at your fingertips. Now, like constituent records, there's a lot of information you can store in Little Green Light as it pertains to gifts and gift-giving behaviors. So of course, when you receive a gift, LGL does have an easy way for you to be able to enter that gift. So let's assume that you're getting checks in the mail and you want to document that in your Little Green Light database. This is the form that you would be able to use that would allow you to do that. There's other ways in which you can get data into Little Green Light other than manually entering it. And we'll talk about those a little bit more as we wrap up. But know that there are easy ways for you to enter data into Little Green Light manually, but there's also some great functionality to be able to automate information and have it come in bulk as well. But just in terms of the kinds of information you can expect to store in Little Green Light as it pertains to gifts, you can kind of see it utilizing this new gift entry record. Obviously, you can keep track of who gave the gift, how much the gift was, if there was a deductible amount, maybe less than the entire amount of the gift, maybe they got some good or service in exchange. You could indicate that. Obviously, you can track what type of payment you received, when the gift was given, and even if the deposit date was different, you could capture that. You can even choose what type of gift it was. Now, Little Green Light actually has a couple of different gift types that you can take advantage of. Most often, our customers are documenting outright gifts, gifts that come in via the mail or online, or maybe they're a stock gift. But it's money that normally you're looking to deposit into your bank account, right? But sometimes there are other kinds of gifts that you want to be able to track. Maybe you're in preparation of your annual solicitation, and in addition to taking one-time gifts, people also can make pledges for a bigger gift and want to pay that off in installments. So you can actually capture when somebody has given you a pledge, so you can kind of document how much the pledge is that they're planning to give. And then you could also, if they're not planning to pay it off all at once, you can choose the interval for which they prefer to pay it off, put in the first payment amount and when that payment might occur. So let's assume maybe they're going to pay it on June 1st. And simply by clicking the calculate installments button, LGL is going to automatically show when the next installment date is due and how much is expected. Now, you could always change these. Maybe they don't want to spend that much. They're going to kind of move it up, and then their last payment's going to be less. I'm not doing my math. 700, 800. Yeah. Anyway, you get my point. So you could, put in installments and override those if you need to. And even change the dates, but at least it gives you a starting point. And then you can use this information to be able to generate pledge reminders, pledge thank yous. And then even as monies come in, you can associate it with that pledge as a pledge payment. And then you'll see the amount of the pledge actually continue to move down. Another kind of gift that many of our customers also want to track in their donor management system are what we call in-kind gifts. So these are gifts of goods or services that your donors are providing to you. So you can categorize those in the way that makes sense to you. And then you can even use this notes and description field to say what exactly it is that they donated. So maybe they gave you a big screen television that you're going to use in your waiting room. And it had a value. They told you what the value was. You were able to document that. And you can then thank them, obviously, for their gift, and you can utilize that information to help you understand the total amount raised for your organization. Now, just like constituents, where we had the ability to tag constituents, we also have some similar capabilities around gifts that make it easy for you to be able to add tags to your gifts to help you understand some really important metrics, like what is the purpose for this money? Where is this money going to go? What purpose are you raising those funds for? And for your organization, those campaign names might be very different than what you're seeing here. These are just examples of some different kinds of campaigns that you could set up. Kind of think of these as like big buckets of how it is that you raise money for what purposes for your organization. And this is really just a way, again, for you to really easily be able to generate reports based on those common buckets that maybe you're being asked to report on. Like if somebody wants to know how much money came in our restricted scholarship fund versus the money that came in for our unrestricted annual giving, you could easily be able to pull that figure out by coding your gifts by campaign, by those campaign names. Funds are a great way for you to be able to designate where specific money needs to go even more granularly. A good example that I often think about is when we did our capital campaign, we allowed our donors to choose one of 4 ways in which their money could be allocated for that capital campaign. So we set up some funds to be able to track that and ensure that one, we were thanking the donor appropriately for their gift and that we were allocating it according to their wishes. So funds can help you with that. Appeals are interesting as well because in addition to this being a coding mechanism to help you understand which specific solicitation effort you undertook to get this gift, it also gives you a lot of capabilities to be able to send out a very personal solicitation and even be able to track how well people are responding to that specific solicitation. Because, you know, sometimes it's not simply that you got a gift, but maybe someone has said, I do plan to give a gift, but I'm not able to do that until next year or 6 months from now. And they don't give you an amount, but maybe you want to be able to keep track of that communication. So instead of you sending your regular follow-up in 6 weeks from your first solicitation, you're not going to solicit them again until 6 months when they asked you to. So it really does help you to keep track of those nuances that are really important to our donors and ensure that they continue to come back and support your organization. Because ultimately donors will respond when they feel like they are being listened to and that they're being valued. And that's part of what keeping good data can do for you. LGL also does have event functionality. So if this money was being raised for a specific event that you are holding, you could code this gift for that as well. Now, I skipped over one other kind of gift that LGL supports, and it's something that actually really isn't a gift per se. It's something that we call other income. And oftentimes we'll have our customers ask us, how do I keep track of revenue that's coming into my organization, but that isn't philanthropic in nature? Maybe they've made purchases at your company store, or they have purchased raffle tickets, and you wanted to keep track of that information, but you didn't want it to be mixed in with your philanthropic giving totals. If that's the case, then you could use this gift type called other income, and that would allow you to be able to see all the ways in which someone has supported your organization, but easily be able to differentiate your philanthropic giving, excuse me, so sorry, your philanthropic giving from revenue producing activity. Now, the other thing that we all know as nonprofit professionals is one of the greatest indicators that someone will give again to your organization is when they receive a personal and prompt acknowledgement from you and when that acknowledgement is clear about how it is that their donation is going to benefit your organization. So we really believe that acknowledgements are super important. So we've actually made it so that as you're entering in gift information, you're prompted to set an acknowledgement template that is going to allow you to do just that, send a prompt and personal acknowledgement. Little Green Light supports both printed acknowledgements and email acknowledgements. So if you want to be able to send out email acknowledgements directly from Little Green Light, we have you covered. If you want to send out a printed acknowledgement, you can also do that. LGL supports printing of letters, labels, and envelopes. So you can definitely do that. Just a couple other things. I skipped over the section. Oh, I didn't skip over because it's not there anymore because we move it when we go to in kind. Just that we do support tribute type gifts. So if you are an organization that does receive memorial or honorary type gifts, and you want to be able to keep track of not only who the gift was made in honor or in memory of, but you also wanted to keep track of maybe a dedication or a family member that needs to be notified when that gift came in, et cetera. LGL has that capability as well. So going back to talk a little bit about those different designations that you can set up to support your gift information. This is where you can easily set up those campaign names. You can even put in a target or goal if you want, so that when you go to your campaign dashboard, you can actually see how well you're doing in terms of your progress. Same is true with funds, that you have that capability as well. Appeals, as I mentioned before, is a bit more than just a coding mechanism. It is going to allow you to be able to keep track of who you've asked for what, when, and how they've responded to that ask. So you can see in this quick snapshot here, we created a solicitation as part of our capital campaign, where it was our board reaching out to our top 25 prospects, asking them if they would be willing to support our capital campaign and at what level. So we created an appeal and identified the 25 people who were going to be in our personal ask category. We put in an ask amount, a target ask amount for those constituents. And then as conversations were occurring, in this case, we kept track of which board member was assigned to have the conversation. We also were able to keep track of the status of that ask. And all of these statuses are things that you can customize, and you can choose which ones make the sense for you and what kind of appeal you are creating. But again, you can really get a clear sense. There's no like, I don't know where we stand, with that, because this gives you a tool set to make it really easy to know exactly where you stand, and then even generate a report that you can share with your board or your capital campaign committee and keep them in the loop about how everything is going and what the status of each ask is and how much money has been raised, et cetera. Events also, same thing, way more than just an opportunity to be able to keep track of gifts that have come in. It also can keep track of the people that you've invited to that event, their RSVP status, whether or not they actually attended, of course, keeping track of gifts. But you can also really customize these to keep track of information that's really specific or relevant just to that specific event. We used to give away golf shirts to our golfers when they registered. It was part of their fee. And we kept track of the shirt size that they requested so that we'd know when it was time to order or distribute them, who got what. Again, just made it easy to keep it all the information in one place. LGL even supports the ability for you to be able to print off name tags directly from the event area for that specific event, or even generate a registration sheet with a single click. So it's a really awesome system. What goes really nicely hand in hand with events is our forms feature. Forms allows you to be able to create online forms so that if you want to be able to collect event RSVPs or allow your folks to pay for tickets for your event, you could use our forms feature to do that. Not only can you use it to simply collect information, maybe like as in a survey, for instance. But you can also use it to process payments, and you can process one-time or recurring payments with our forms feature. So it's really a cool feature, and it really does decrease how much manual entry you ever have to do, because as people are actually completing the form on your website, you can choose to link that form to your Little Green Light account. So every form submission automatically populates your LGL account. And if it were specifically for an event, you could actually tie it to that event as well. So the information would show in the constituent record, and you could see all of the event related data in the event that you captured in LGL. So lots of cool things as it relates to that. Now, I did promise I would just mention, and I know we have about 10 minutes left here, so I know we want to get some question and answer period. And so Kelsey, let me know how we're doing with that. But just note that I mentioned—
We just have one so far, so you can take a few more minutes, because I think it's going to be a relatively easy answer when you get to it.
Okay, excellent. Good to know. One thing I just wanted to mention before I wrap up, because I did say I would talk about this, and that is I mentioned that there are ways for you to get data into Little Green Light other than manually entering it. And one of the most incredible tools I think that I have ever come across in a system like this is our Flex Importer. And this is a tool that allows you to import data that you have in a CSV or an Excel file format and upload that data into your Little Green Light account in bulk. And you can use this import tool to import all kinds of data. Every kind of data that I showed you that LGL holds is able to be imported through this import tool. So whether it's volunteer hours or contact reports or event invitations or people on your email list, or of course, constituent and giving data, all of that can be uploaded in bulk. So you really don't have to worry about feeling like you have to figure out how you can get any of your existing data into LGL and feel like you have to do that manually. This import tool was really, again, built with people like me in mind, which are not necessarily technical experts or wizards. It's really pretty easy and intuitive to use. And we've got some amazing information that walks you step by step about how to use this functionality and every other functionality that LGL offers in our knowledge base. It's a pretty extensive resource that we continue to hone and put together, as well as create some videos also, so that you can kind of watch step by step if that's your learning style and you feel more comfortable that way. What's cool about the Flex Importer is not only can you see what the data is going to look like before you actually commit it to your live database, even once you have committed it, there is the ability for you to actually undo it. So if you've noticed a mistake, it's really easy for you to back it out without ever hurting or affecting your database. So I think those are really some of the key things that I guess I really wanted to make sure that you knew about. Again, I would just really, really encourage you that if it looks like LGL seems like it might be a good solution for you, definitely I'd say take advantage of our free 30-day period and open up an account and try it out. There is no obligation to do anything past the 30 days. If you decide that it's not for you, the account simply will close. If you're not ready to make a move right now or at the end of the 30-day period, you'll actually be able to access that account for up to 6 months afterwards and hop back in and sign up at that point. So you would actually subscribe right from that free account if you decided you wanted to. So any work that you did in it that you wanted to retain, you'd be able to. And then ultimately, if you have any questions for us and maybe you thought of them afterwards, or maybe you're rewatching this at a later time and you want to reach out to us, really the best way to do it is to click this contact us link on our website and just go ahead and use that contact form and send us a note and let us know what we can do and how we can help answer any questions that you have. We do offer what we call prospective customer Q&As once a week, and they're small group sessions. So if you have a very specific question about using Little Green Light at your organization and you think that it would be helpful to talk to somebody from our product team, we'd be happy to have you. Just let us know that you'd like information about how to sign up for one of those, and we can answer your questions via webinar like this. So I think that is it, Kelsey, for me. So you said you had a question?
I do. We have somebody on the call who asked how Little Green Light does with tracking prospects, grant prospects and funding in the software.
Yeah, great question. Little Green Light has a functionality that we call goals. We didn't talk about this yet, but it's a great question. And it is a great way for you to be able to track the various foundations or organizations that you are requesting grants from. So you can actually set up a goal. So you can see, like, we have one here for our local community foundation, and we're looking for $50,000 in grant money from them. When we go into the goal, we can see some details around it. We can keep track of things like the status of it, if we receive the money, but we could also do things like upload our grant application and store it here. We could set up a task to remind ourselves to submit that application when it's due, or arrange for the site visit. So whatever it is that you need to do to be able to kind of keep on top of the different tasks that you need to towards the attainment of that grant, you can use LGL to keep. And what's really cool is you'd set it up for each specific grant cycle and each organization that you are requesting that grant from. So it gives you historical information as well. So you can quickly see, you know, which grants did I go after last year or 2 years ago, and what was the result, and what did I ask them for? And you have all your documentation right there. So if you can reuse it, great, or if you can make adjustments from it, it's really easy because it's right there at your fingertips and you can have access to it.
That is fantastic. I'm so glad that that question was asked. I've been looking on our Facebook page and our Community Foundation page and the YouTube, and we have not gotten any other questions, but if there's anything else you want to share, we've got a couple more minutes left, or we can call it a few minutes early, whatever's better for you.
Yeah, well, you know what, just before we hang up, I guess I would say we didn't talk at all about reporting. You know, of course, a database is as useful as its ability to be able to extract the data that you've stored there and be able to report on it effectively. So definitely LGL does have some really robust searching and reporting tools as well. We didn't go into a lot of depth about those today, but rest assured that you do have the capability to export data out into a CSV or an Excel file format, or in some limited cases, we have some reports that you can generate in a PDF style so that you can have a nice report ready option available for your board reports, for instance. Not only do we have canned reports that you can use ours, but we also give you the ability to create as many different custom reports as you need. So you can pretty much slice and dice the information any way that you need to and export that to be able to report on the things that matter most to you.
That's great.
Awesome.
I love all of this. Thank you so much. This has been so informative. And if we get any other questions, of course, I'll pass them on. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you if they have questions?
Yeah, the best way is definitely to head over to our website, littlegreenlight.com. And if you open up our navigation, this little hamburger menu in the top right-hand corner, you'll see the link for the contact us. Just go ahead and click that and send us a note. As I said, we have a pretty small team, so you can say, hey, I listened to Timmy's webinar, have a question, it'll probably come right to me. But myself and my colleague Hunter primarily work with our prospective customers, so you'll probably hear from one or the other of us.
That's great. Thank you so much, Timmy, for being here today, and everyone for being on the call and on the replays and on the streams. And if there's anything we can do, of course, reach out to us here at the Ocala Foundation. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting now. Thank you so much, Timmy, for your time.
And thank you, Kelsey. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.